You have to design your presentation around your audience and the time slot you've got and what they're expecting you to deliver. And for some, it might be, you've got 15 minutes and they're not expecting you to interact with them. They're just going to sit there and soak it all in, and you're going to, put your pitch together. On others, it might be that, you've had a big steer that they want some interaction and you want to make your presentation just as something helpful rather than the core thing.
Welcome to the Business Ownership Podcast, brought to you by Awareness Strategies, helping you navigate the waters between entrepreneurship and ownership. Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedlick, and I'm super glad that you're here with us today because I'm here with my most amazing guest, Trevor. Trevor, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Michelle, it's a great pleasure to be on your podcast. Really looking forward to it.
Awesome. I am too. So give everybody the highlight of who you are and what you love to do.
Of course, we met when you came on the Better Presentations, More Sales podcast back in October. So that's part of the reason, I guess, I'm here. But I'm based in the UK. And I know not a lot of people do podcasting in a business level in the UK. So I'm one of those. But so that's all good. A little bit of background. I did a sports degree about 100 years ago, and then I progressed into local media because I thought that was a great route into becoming a sports journalist. But I went in on the commercial side, on the advertising sales side, and 29 years later, I'd failed miserably to get into the sports journalism side. So I had been the commercial director, sales director, managing director of a regional group and all that stuff. So I suppose that wasn't too bad. And now, 10 years ago, the company was sold, and I decided to set up on my own and, take the presentation and the sales skills that I'd, developed over those almost 30 years and share them with everybody else. So that's what I do.
Nice. I love it. So talk to us about, let's start with who do you serve in sports? So who would you say is your ideal client? Who do you love working with?
I love working with anybody who wants to improve their presentation skills. And the biggest thrill is when they come back to me and say, hey, those tweaks we made, it worked really well. I felt really confident delivering it, which I didn't do before. And it went down well. And we got an order or whatever it might be. So that's anybody in that sector, anybody in that category is who I love working with.
Awesome. Love it. So I'm just going to ramble through a list of the ones that come to my mind. So salespeople, CEOs that are doing IPOs, even if they're just CEOs doing boardroom presentations, if they've been really good with their ideas, but not necessarily polished up on presenting in front of a group of people. Anybody in HR training and all those kind of fun things? Am I on track?
Absolutely. Yeah,
nice.
That's the broad spectrum. And what I kind of like to think I bring to the table is there's lots of people offering presentation skills. There's lots of people offering sales skills, but I'm trying to create a niche where I can bring the best of those to the table so that I can help you do a great presentation, but I can give you the sales skills to make sure you convert it ultimately into revenue if that's what your goal is.
Nice. And I would assume that even if somebody's there to teach, they're there to ensure that the lesson has been taught, not just that they have rambled through their thing, which is a huge difference.
That is absolutely it. That's the key thing is making sure it actually goes into action and delivers in the real world.
Yeah, nice. And I think that's a key part for a lot of people to keep that in mind is no matter what you're doing and no matter what you're saying, there's always a call to action. There's always a sales aspect to every conversation that we have. It just doesn't happen any other way.
No, you're absolutely right. Because, even if you're presenting to your own team, the outcome will be that you want them to engage with something or be motivated by something. So there's always an outcome. And very often people don't even sometimes spend enough time thinking about what the outcome is that they want to achieve.
Oh, absolutely. So when you're working with somebody, what does that typically look like? Are you working one-on-one? Are you working with their teams?
A combination of the both, really, Michelle. Yeah, it's they might bring me in to deliver a team program, which we often nowadays do on Zoom or occasionally do in person over a period of time. Or someone comes along, and they sometimes come along for one 45-minute session because they've got a key presentation or sales pitch, in a week's time, and they just want to just want to rehearse it with someone who can give them some feedback other than their team, who are bound to say it's brilliant. And I won't.
No matter what, there's always something we can work on. Love that. So are there principles or guiding kind of philosophies that you go by when you're working with somebody?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a business model that I've created over the years called the 7 Ps of presenting stroke pitching. And I kind of work my way through those with people, and it's just a check really, as much as anything, to make sure that they've got everything covered, rather than just fire up the PowerPoint and, you know, press go and see what happens, really.
Cool. So do you want to go over some of those without giving away too much of your secret sauce?
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's a very simple model. I mean, it starts with purpose, because, you know, the first P is purpose. You have to understand what it is you want the outcome to be. You know, why are you doing this pitch? Why are you presenting? And it's got to be realistic. It's no good thinking, well, I'm doing this pitch because I'm going to get $1 million contract as soon as I finish it. Well, that, you know, that might not be realistic. It might be that the real purpose is to get the next meeting, or get one, you know, a proposal in writing, or whatever it might be. So, and then the second step is people, which is clearly understanding who your audience is. And a lot of presenters, you know, fall into the trap of thinking the presentation is all about themselves. You know, hey, look at us. This is how brilliant we are, you know, and hey, you know, just come over here and collect all our awards. I nearly knocked my microphone over telling you that then.
It's getting a little excited, folks.
And the phrase I use, it's about them. It's not about you. And you've got to put your presentation together for your audience. So find out what they want. You know, talk to them before you do your presentation or your pitch. Just confirm what they're expecting from you. Find out who's going to be on the pitch, and then you can research them and decide, you know. So when you get there, you know the people, and you know, we all know, Michelle, ultimately, even in a digital world, people buy from people. So if I've done my homework on the people and I've put something together that suits them, then that's going to be beneficial to them. So, you know, those are kind of a couple, and then there's things like preparation and planning, PowerPoint, practice, and then the performance, which is the delivery bit.
Right. And I'm assuming, I mean, my brain went to, I don't remember the last time I ever brought a PowerPoint presentation into a sales call. But then I'm going, maybe some people do still. I don't know. Do people still bring in presentations, like actual charts and things in sales presentations?
Yeah, I think they do, actually. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it seems as though they do. And some of the big corporations, you know, I worked with one guy who was working for a big corporation, and he kind of had like a 80 slide, you know, 80 deck of slides, you know, and it was, and he'd been told, you know, this is how he has to, you know, had to deliver it. And loads of them just weren't necessary, and they weren't helping him at all. And it was a bit of a dilemma, because, you know, should he toe the company line and deliver it as requested, or should he deliver it in a way he wanted to do it? So I just gave him some help around how to make the most of what he'd got in front of him. But yeah, definitely people are still using a lot of slides and things like too many slides.
Too many slides. I was going to say 80 slides. I'm pretty sure that's what I do in a full day presentation, and that's training.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, wow. Yeah.
Awesome. So what are some of the things that people can do to make their presentation? So you talked about the purpose of it, and the people that are there. Obviously, speaking that language, talking to the people that are there is going to make a big difference. It becomes more interesting. But are there things that you do to make the presentations kind of more engaging and more kind of a two-way conversation, or is it still like, are people still expecting that, hey, if you're going to go out and do an IPO, I want to know you get up there and do your dog and pony show, because I'm not giving you $20 million to, you know, without knowing what's going on.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, you know, you have to design your presentation around your audience and the time slot you've got, and what they're expecting you to deliver. And for some, it might be, you know, you've got 15 minutes and they're not expecting you to interact with them. They're just going to sit there and soak it all in, and you're going to, you know, put your pitch together. On others, it might be that, you know, you've had a big steer that they want some interaction, and you want to make your presentation just as something helpful rather than the core thing. And I think that's something that people often forget, is that, you know, people buy from people, as I mentioned. And sometimes I think people turn up with their presentation and think the presentation is what's going to sell. It's not. You know, I always say, you know, it's a kind of prompt, it's a help, it's something there for you. But don't, you know, you are the salesperson ultimately, whether, you know, however you want to describe that. So don't rely on your presentation to make it happen. It's down to you, the way you deliver it, but more importantly, the way you interact and the way you come across. Because you're either representing yourself or your company. So people are making decisions about what they see in front of them, which is basically you.
Absolutely. So give us an example of one of your Cinderella stories, one of your clients.
Well, I worked with a guy who was a courier, and he worked over here in the UK, and he was part of his local chamber of commerce, chamber of trade, whatever. I'm sure many of your listeners know, are members of those organizations. And he had 3 minutes at a particular meeting to deliver his presentation, and there were 2 or 3 others doing a similar thing. It's a common thing, you remember, you get your 3-minute slot every couple of years or whatever. So he contacted me, and I sort of knew him a bit, and he was very nervous about it. And he said, "Oh, Trevor," he said, "I just don't do things like this. I've got this presentation. I know it's important, but I don't do slides and all that sort of stuff." And I said, "Well, okay. So what's the most important, what's the most symbolic thing of what you do?" And he said, "Well, there's my van." And then I said, "Well, what goes in your van?" He said, "Well, one of the things we pride ourselves on is the way we pack all the stuff that we take. So we put it in boxes and all that." I said, "Okay, so we've got a box and a van. how can we work your presentation?" So in the end, he arrived very early to the thing. He was the first person there, and he parked right outside the door with his van all immaculately clean. So he was presenting himself immediately. Everybody had to walk past his van to get in to the location, and it looked great. And then when it came to his 3 minutes, what we decided, no slides. Everybody else was doing slides. The room wasn't really geared up really that well for slides either. It was a big room, but it had pillars all over the place and not a very big screen. So we fortunately ditched that, and we went with the cardboard box. So he turns up with this great big cardboard box, and he walks around the room, and he starts pulling things out of the box of examples of the sort of thing that his courier firm do. Valuable things, unusual things. And he was great. And he absolutely, he did really do well. And at the end of the year, they voted his the best presentation of the year.
Wow, nice.
So that was a great, that's a story I tell when people say, "Oh, I need more slides." And I say, how about having no slides?
Yeah. Well, and it really comes down to what do people remember? And when people remember it a year later, that's you made your point, and they're going to know, hey, we have this thing we have to transport. Who are we going to get to do it? And of course, it's going to be him. I love it. So what would you say is your favorite part of your business?
Well, I would say, it is it's helping people achieve things that they don't believe are possible. And, when we're talking about, particularly about presentations, a lot of it is getting the confidence to do it. A lot of people avoid it. I'm sure you've met people like that. And just helping them get over the line and get that first one and know that they can do it. And that means such a lot, and that's kind of why I still do it, really, because it's a great feeling when someone has genuinely, done something they couldn't think possible with a little bit of input from me. That's worth it. That's worth it. That's the great thing about it.
Nice. So are you typically working with people who are shy and introverted, or is it sometimes just people haven't done presentations before, or are you working with people like for long periods of time?
It's a real mixture, Michelle. A lot of it is people who come in, as I say, maybe for 1, 2, 3, 4 sessions, if they want to deliver a key pitch or a presentation. Or I might work with someone over a longer period of time until they get to the point where they feel, right, okay, I know what I'm doing now. I'm confident, so I'll come back in 6 months and let you know how I'm getting on. Or the groups, of course, who want people, want their whole, team just sometimes as a refresher, because people have often had a bits of presentation training and then they don't present for 3 months and they forget what they're doing. And
or 3 years in some cases.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
So,
would you say that there's a difference between virtual and face-to-face when it comes to doing the presentation?
Yeah, I think there is, actually, because clearly, when you're in the room with people, you can have that body language contact, if you like. I mean, we can still see each other on Zoom. The thing that a lot of people forget when they're presenting virtually is how important their voice is. Because that is the key thing. And you've got to make sure, if you are presenting virtually, you've got good audio. Because if I can't hear you very well, that's not going to be good news. And if your voice is the same all the way through, that certainly isn't going to be good news.
What? People don't like monotonous tones of voice for hours on end? I don't understand.
So I think that's the key difference is your voice probably is more important virtually. And when you're in person, you can move around and you can engage with people just through body language and eye contact in particular. The other thing, of course, is the other advantage of presenting virtually is that, you can make it easier for yourself with technology because, it's your kit that you're using. And what I tend to do is I tend to stick around my screen all the prompt notes that I need. So, a lot of people turn up with presentations, with great big notes, don't they? And all that sort of stuff. And you really don't want that, just a prompt note is more than enough.
Yeah. What, you don't want to have your entire presentation typed out in front of you while you're standing behind the podium and read it?
If you're listening to this podcast, please don't do that and think you've got to read the script. I know sometimes you have to read a speech because it's verbatim and you're going to deliver it. It might be something really important, but most of the time it's not that level. So don't do that. Don't worry about things. People say, well, yeah, I'll forget something. Well, you forget something. You're the only one who knows that. So, don't do that, because there are two things. If I see someone turn up with big notes, A4 notes, I think they've not practiced. So they've disregarded that's disrespectful to me because I've come to your presentation. You can't be bothered to practice it. So you need it all in one big A4 thing. And secondly, you clearly don't know what you're talking about because you've got to refer to all these notes. So my confidence in you has gone down as well. So it's just those little psychological things, isn't it?
Yeah. I think I've seen 2 presentations read in my life that were actually very good, but it was very startlingly, wow, this is actually good. So I think you really, really, really got to be on the far end of, the outlying data in order to be able to make an impression while you're reading your notes. So yeah, wouldn't do that. Are there any other things that you see people doing that you're like, oh yeah, don't do that?
I think rambling at the start is a problem for some people. They just think, right, okay, go, oh, it's great to be here, Michelle. Thanks so much for inviting me to do this presentation today, and it's the coffee was lovely and I'm looking forward to, and all this nonsense, but, to me, you do all that pre your presentation, in the kind of meet and greet bit. So as soon as it's time to go, you need to get in there with a big thing that gets the attention of the audience. And it's not a big thing about you, which most people decide it is. Put a big fact up there or a big statement or something that will get your audience's attention. But, you don't have to be a comedian, and tell jokes because that's a bit of a risk. So don't start like that unless you're absolutely sure you can pull that one off. And I also think be careful about using images that, you're just trying to get a cheap laugh from, that aren't really connected to, a lot of people. I think people have drifted away from that. There was a spell when, there was all these funny things going on presentations and people were trying to get a cheap laugh because they thought that was the best way of getting attention. Well, it isn't really, people are there for a serious reason most of the time. So get straight into the subject.
Nice. Well, I think that comes back to your first point is purpose. And you really need to start your entire presentation with the purpose, like why we all here.
Absolutely.
And when you can hone in on that and they know why you're here, and then it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the connection.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, without doubt.
Love it. So what are some of the stumbling blocks that somebody might be having and thinking, oh my God, Trevor, I need you so badly?
Well, one of the challenges most presenters have, Michelle, is sticking to the time they've been offered.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I mean, your listeners will be familiar with this. They may have done this themselves where they've got 20 minutes of their presentation or they're in the audience. It's a 20-minute presentation and somebody goes on for 25 or 30. And if it's a 10-minute presentation, they go on. A 10-minute presentation just goes in the click of a finger. So my top tip for your listeners on that is that if you've got, let's say 10 minutes, make sure when you practice the presentation, you take the practice seriously and you do it at the pace you're going to do it on the day, but make sure you can get that delivery in practice in around about 8.5 minutes. So you've got a buffer. And people think, oh, well, I practiced it and it took 10 minutes. So that's great. Well, inevitably, that means on the day you will be more than 10 minutes because you'll ramble a bit without realizing it. In practice, you go a little bit quicker maybe than you might otherwise on the day. On the day, you'll think of something else, you'll add to it. So you need that buffer to make sure that you deliver on time. So if it's 20 minutes, then, that's 16, 17 minutes in practice.
Nice. So, and I don't know if you have any stats on them, but one, it drives me absolutely insane when people go over. And I know that there's a real philosophy and theory out there that people who go past their time are more important and have more to say. And I think it's hugely disrespectful. And I automatically go, wow, you can't even keep to your time as a speaker. I'm not buying from you no matter what. So you could be the world's best heart surgeon. And it's almost like I'd rather die than go to you because you don't know how to respect your time. Yeah. I don't know if anybody else is like that. It just happens to be one of my kickers, because if you have other presentations going on, like everybody deserves their moment in the spotlight. They've all put in as much effort to get their time in that venue as you have. So that's my take on it. Is that kind of how most audiences feel, or is that an exception?
I think you're absolutely spot on. And I think, if people think, oh, well, just because, I'm a big shot, I can go on more than I've been given the time. I absolutely agree with you. And it's not fair on the organizers, the audience, or indeed the other speakers if you go over your time. And the other top tip I would give people is to, remember that the conclusion or the summary or the call to action, whatever you want to call it, the last 10% of your presentation maybe, is probably the most important, because it's the last thing people hear from you before you leave the stage or whatever. So make sure, for goodness sake, you don't run out of time, so you don't have time to deliver that bit. If you're running and you notice you're over time, cut out the middle stuff, because people go too much depth in the middle stuff anyway. So cut some of that out to make sure you get that final bit in, because that's important. That really is, that really is important, that you get that right. But a top tip is if you are presenting at an event and you're going to be one of, say, 6 presenters, and you're concerned that if you're sixth on, there'll be 5 minutes left instead of 30 because everybody's gone over and it's lunchtime and all that. So my thought is always get on either first or at least second. So if I'm lined up to speak at an event and I say, well, how many other speakers are there? And they go, 6 more, I go, okay, how about, can I go first? Because not everybody few people want to go first voluntarily. But the beauty of going first is you get to set yourself up before everybody else arrives. So you're the first person using the big screen. You can test your presentation. And secondly, you don't have to worry about the previous person overrunning and it affecting you, because you're starting from scratch. So get in there first. And of course, if you're great when you go first, whoa, it's going to be tough for the others.
That's awesome. Nothing like a good little jab in there. That's fun. So when I know our audience is going to want more from you, how did they start their journey with you?
Well, the best thing to do is have a look at my website. It's now called trevorjlee.com. I've had a bit of a rebrand in the last couple of weeks. But so you might find me as...
You got a middle initial in the last 2 weeks?
Yeah. Well, you might find me as trevorleemedia.co.uk. So that's out there, but I'm trying to steer people to trevorjlee.com. It's exactly the same website. And on there you can find, well, you can drop me an email, trevor@trevorjlee.com, or there's lots of buttons where you can have a no obligation 15-minute Zoom meeting with me, and I can find out A, what it is you want to achieve, and B, whether I'm the right person to do that for you. Because I always think, you've got to pick someone you can work with. So there we go. So that would be the best way. And you can reach out to me on LinkedIn as well.
Very cool. I love it. So at what point in life did you know that you were special kind of crazy enough to think that you could become an entrepreneur?
Well, I suppose my grandparents were entrepreneurs in a small way, shopkeepers and farmers and this sort of thing. And then it skipped a generation really. And I always felt somewhere along the line that, I wanted to work for myself. And as I say, I spent 29 years not working for myself, but when the moment came, I knew it was the one I had to take. And a lot of my colleagues ummed and ahed about it, and one or two tried it and then gave up and went back to working for someone else. But I just love it. And I love the challenge of being responsible for your own income and growing what you're trying to do. And, I don't have a huge amount of people, but I have people I bring in for all specialist reasons. So they're all part of the team, I suppose.
I love it. I love it. So Trevor, you've been absolutely awesome. Any last words for our peeps?
I would say if you're going to do your presentations, then keep those PowerPoint slides to a minimum in terms of the words on them, right? That's a good tip, because the last thing you want is a PowerPoint slide full of words. You don't want it. Your audience definitely don't want it. So be ruthless with the way you edit your slides for your presentation. And if you really want to make it, zing, then give yourself plenty of preparation time and practice seriously.
Nice. Love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for your time. You've been absolutely awesome. I value your time and appreciate it.
Michelle, that's been terrific. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Awesome. Peeps, this is Michelle Nedelec. Thank you for being here with us today. Be sure to subscribe to the show and share it with your friends. We love helping entrepreneurs grow.
Are you running a business over 7 figures but still struggling with technology headaches? Pay attention, you do not want to miss this offer. This podcast episode is brought to you by Awareness Strategies, who is offering a custom-built digital adoption roadmap for anyone running a business over 7 figures who's wanting to grow their business in the next 5 years. And it's not just a roadmap, they offer full implementation as well if that scares the out of you. Check out awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap for more details today. The link's in the show's notes. Don't regret not doing this. Do it now. That's awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap.